Hey, badass business owners. Today we're going to talk about expanding your business and jumping into some form or type of brick and mortar. It might be a retail store, it might be a warehouse, it might be some land, it might be something, but basically you are busting at the seams in your business where you're currently trying to run it from home or out of your car, and that is no longer feasible for you. And you're looking at the different options you need to be able to expand and grow the business. I want to thank you, the listener, for this particular topic. I recently reached out and asked for some ideas of what you guys would like for me to talk about, and this was one of the items that have come up. But what's ironic about it is I've actually been talking about it with several coaching clients as well. So I think it's a fantastic topic and definitely worth exploring. And by the way, if you ever have a topic that you would like me to try to talk about, just shoot it over to me at tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. Let's dive in about this, because typically what happens is you've started your business, you've started to grow, you've been typically trying to do it out of your car or trying to do it from home. Now, some of you have products that you try to sell, so you do your production and everything at home. And some of you, because you're a service-based business, you start going from one truck to two, maybe three, or a van, and your HOA, or there's no place for you to park it. There's all kinds of different things that are happening. And at the end of the day, you're realizing in order for you to continue to grow, you need to get out of the house, get out of the garage, get out of that spare bedroom and expand. But the question becomes, is that a smart thing for you in your business? Well, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. The minute you expand and you go into a brick and mortar, or you purchase a property, or you rent a property, or whatever you choose to do, your profits are going to drop. And you have to be prepared for that. So before you make that leap, one of the most crucial things you need to do is you need to build up some reserves in your business to be able to cover any of the bills and expenses and everything else. Because not only do you have to have money to be able to make this jump, but you're also going to need money to be able to survive, to be able to pay the bills, because your expenses are going to go up, because you're not going to immediately take on a lot more business. It's going to be something that's going to be gradual as you do it, and you're going to be able to need to cover not only your personal expenses, you're going to need to be able to cover all the business expenses, and you're going to have to be able to cover all of these new expenses. So please, whatever you do, you need to make sure that you start saving up now if you think that this is something on the horizon for you. Now, the second most important thing you need to do is you need to run the numbers. You didn't really think I wasn't going to say that, did you? Of course, you need to run those numbers, because it's probably not the same amount that you think. You might say, oh, I got this great idea. I can pick up this thing for $1,000 a month. Well, is it really $1,000 a month? Because there's a lot of expenses that go on every single month with having an additional space. Make sure that you're looking at not just the rent, but is there also common area, often called CAMs, common area charges that you're going to be expected to pay? What type of utilities are you going to be expected to pay? Do you have to carry extra insurance for this particular location that you're going to do? Are you going to need other employees? If it's a retail store, you're going to have the doors open, so you might need more people unless you plan to work 24/7, or at least the hours of operation before and after closing it up and everything else. Been there, done that, got that one. But I will tell you, you need to make sure that you sit down and you put pen to paper and you start mapping out what these costs are going to be. Now remember, if you start adding all that stuff up and it comes to, say, $5,000 a month, remember, that's $5,000 of profit off the top to pay for that. It's not $5,000 more in sales. So if your costs all of a sudden are going to jump $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, keep in mind that that's going to be coming right off the profit. So right now, if you have a profit where you have an extra $6,000 or $5,000 a month right now, and you just are prepared for the fact that that profit is going to go away, then that makes the right sense. But this is one of those reasons why I'm always talking about making sure that you personally are being paid as the employee as well as the business owner. Because if the business profits go away, your business owner wages go away, and you need to make sure that you are still at least getting paid as an employee in the business. Otherwise, this just will not work. You need to make sure that you know how to live off of those employee wages, because those business wages are being reinvested back into the business in order for it to expand. One of the things that I want you to do is I want you to plot out the next year. I want you to budget it. I want you to do a projection, just like you were supposed to do when you first started your business. But yet, let's be real, most of you never did that. But if you did some type of business plan or success blueprint, which I like to think of it more for most of you guys, but you need to work out those numbers and you need to say, this is what my budget is going to look like in my business if I had this space. This way you can understand exactly where your gross margin is and then how much of that is going to be going towards all these new expenses. Because maybe your expenses have been running a low of 10, 15% because you get to work from home. But the minute you move over to this brick and mortar or this other location, guess what? That number may jump to 25 to 50% depending upon the type of business that you have. And if you're a retail shop, I'm telling you, yours is going to be the highest. The fees tend to be higher, and you have to have that additional employees typically that go along with that. Like I said, you need to make sure that you're looking at all of the expenses that are going to go along. And please don't forget to check your insurance, because a lot of times people forget about that one. And you may find that your current insurance does not cover for you to have one of those buildings. And if you rent it, a lot of times the landlord will require you to have additional insurance at the same time. But go back to what I was just saying. You need to project out that 6 to 12 months. When will you break even, start making your money back on this particular new location that you're doing? Now, I've had people that have gone out and they've rented retail space. I've had people that have gone out and rented warehouse space, and I've had people that have gone out and purchased land, and then they were just going to build on the land or store their stuff, for example, landscaping or something like that, or trucks that they can park on vacant land. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go depending upon your particular business. Now, one of the ones that is often overlooked for a lot of people when you first make that leap is see about subletting. See about renting somebody's space before you go off and dedicate the next 6 months to a year. Because a lot of times, by the way, when you're signing those leases, they're 5 to 10 years that these people want you to do. And you're not even sure if this is going to work out yet. So if you can find someone that you can rent their space, for example, oftentimes bakers will go to restaurants and see if they can borrow their restaurants in the morning because maybe they don't do breakfast, but they do lunch and dinner. So therefore they can sublet the kitchens in the morning so that they can do their bakery and they can start doing some of that. There are some people that have large office space, other business owners in town that maybe have a section, if you just need office space, that you can rent a desk or rent a space from them in order to be able to do that. Or maybe they have a side lot on their building that you can store your trucks and maybe a Conex, one of the big cargo storage units that you can park there and put your equipment in it. There's a lot of different things. I want you to be creative. I want you to think outside of the box, because a lot of times you can start off in this cheaper version, which is through subletting, borrowing, renting back, giving them a percentage of sale, whatever the case may be, in order for you to be able to get on your feet, to continue to raise the money you need to be able to go out on your own and to discover, do you really need that? Now, for some of you, you may find that you don't need to expand at all, that you thought you did, but once you run the numbers and everything else, the numbers just don't make sense. In which case, you have to start asking yourself, are there other ways that you can expand your business without necessarily needing this retail space? Here's the thing. Let's just say that you make a nice, healthy income of, say, $75,000 a year where you currently are, but you can't grow the business without having that additional space. Well, if you run your numbers and you discover that, yes, you can go out and you can rent space, but your income is going to drop down to $50,000, and it's going to take you about 3 years to be able to get right back up to that $75,000. You have to ask yourself, is that the risk that you want to take in order to be able to grow that business? Or you can just say, you know what, maybe I don't need to expand. I'm comfortable with the 75 that I'm making right now, and we'll see what the future has to hold. Make sure you ask yourself all these different questions. It doesn't mean that you are not doing well in your business. It means you're making a smart business decision, because it's not just about the sales. It's about the profit you keep and how profitable your business is. Please make sure that you run those numbers every which way and you ask yourself, does this make sense? Now, some people are going, well, how do you even find out about these things? There's signs on buildings all the time that tell you who the property manager are, because most of the times retail space is property managed by a company that owns it from a bigger company that owns it. Yes, you can go through a local realtor, but a lot of realtors actually don't know anything about commercial space. That's just not their thing. Most big brokerages have somebody that specializes in commercial real estate, so you can go in and ask them who that person is, who's their commercial real estate specialist, because typically in your area, in your town, they're going to know what's out there and what's currently for rent and what's currently not for rent. You also need to find out, do they deal with more of the big stuff, or can they help you with the little stuff as well? Here's a really weird one. I actually had a client one time that what they were able to do is they were able to purchase a home that allowed them to work out of the home with their business. And so they had their personal home, and then they had this other home that they started running the day-to-day operations out of. You have to check with your county, check with your city, obviously, because some of them will not let you run a business out of your home. But it was just another creative way. They found a cheap piece of property that allowed them to be able to do that. So at the end of the day, here's the main thing you need to remember. You've got to run the numbers. You've got to make sure that you are prepared for making that leap and purchasing or renting out that space that you need to do. By running your numbers, you're going to know exactly how much money you need to be able to have in reserves in order to survive, and if you have to feed the business money. And you're going to be able to do that through your current retained earnings, which just means that you may have to stop taking money out of the business as a business owner several months in advance so that you can build up those reserves so that you're ready for this jump. The numbers have to make sense. And if you can't get those numbers to make sense, you're not ready to make that jump. And that is very important for you to accept. And many times we don't like to accept the fact that we can't do something. And I'm not telling you that you can't do it down the road. I'm just saying you're not prepared today to do it. So unless you have some deep pockets and you can make a lot of mistakes as you try to figure this out, it is not worth you doing. I would definitely recommend you go down the path of renting space from somebody first if you are not prepared financially for that bigger leap, because it is a commitment. You're going to have to do your homework. You may have to bring in a lawyer that's in town that can look at the documents for you. One of the worst things you can do is sign a lease not fully understanding. These suckers are thick. You're talking 100 pages. And those are big companies that typically have really gone through those leases, and they've made it to where they are protected and you are not as protected. So it's important that you cover your butt. I'm not trying to discourage you from doing this. I think that if you can build an amazing business where you need to expand it and have the space, that is fantastic. I just want you to do it the smart way. What I don't want to have happen is that you take this great business that you have now, and then 2 or 3 years down the road, you're struggling and barely keeping the business open because you jumped too soon and you weren't prepared. You didn't run the numbers. Keep in mind, a lot of things can shut down a store. I can't tell you how many times my store was shut down just because they were working on the road, or maybe the weather came in and I couldn't open up the doors, or I couldn't keep the doors open, or nobody was coming because of that. But keep in mind, if they start a massive construction project in your town right in front of your location, it may make it hard for people to get in, get out, to even know you're there, for you to be able to use it. And are you prepared for those types of moments? Those things happen. I'm telling you, I've been there. And a lot of business owners go through this very same struggle all of the time. I could go on, and that's not what I want to do. What I want to do today is I just want to throw out there those common things. If you want to be able to expand your business and you've grown a fantastic business, I want you to go for it. But what I do want is I want you to do it smartly. I want you to run those numbers, okay? Make sure you have enough in reserves. I want you to run the numbers and ask yourself how long until you start breaking even, that you start making your money back. Keep in mind, whatever those costs are, if it's $3,000, that's $3,000 of profits a month that you are giving up, not $3,000 in sales. And if your profits run you about 20%, then you know that you need 5 times the 3,000, 15,000 in sales in order to be able to rent that place out. Now, I'm making it sound simple because of the way I'm doing it, but you should be able to take your profit number. This is one of the reasons why we want to know our numbers. And if you don't know your business numbers, you definitely do not need to be expanding and renting and getting into a lease. You just don't, because you've got to understand your business numbers even more so when you are renting a place out. So if you know that your profits run a certain percentage, you can usually use that as a gauge as to a quick and dirty way of finding out if you're even ready for this jump. Because if all of a sudden $15,000 in sales a month in addition to what you're currently doing just seems so there's no way you can do it, then you need to slow down, because if you can't do that 15, you're never going to break even with your numbers. So if you're currently doing 6,000 and you're pushing it, and now you find out you need 15 on top of your 6, so now you need $21,000 to break even, you so are not ready. Run the numbers. All right, I'm starting to feel like I'm a broken record, and I use that as my gauge that I need to get out of here. And by the way, like I said earlier, if you have any topics you'd like me to try to expand on a little bit, shoot me an email, Tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com. I read them all. I answer them all back. I might be delayed a day or two, depending upon how busy I am, but I do respond back. Just ask any of the people that have already reached out. And if you have a topic, I'd love to expand on it a little bit. Our mission is to help all of you that are trying to run an amazing business in your local community. And how do we help you be as profitable as possible? But with that, I am out of here, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass business owner, before you go, as you know, I'm a huge believer in you knowing your business numbers. After all, it isn't about how much you sell, it's about what you keep. And the best way to grow your profits is to start diving in and understanding those business numbers. To help you on this journey, I have created the Know Your Business Numbers course. We will walk through how to read your profit and loss statement. You'll learn the key calculations that'll help ensure that you're making a healthy profit on all of your products or services, plus a ton of other good stuff that'll help you learn how to use those business numbers to create even more sales and profits. Just check out the link below in the show notes or visit knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. So if you're ready to increase those profits, it's time you start diving into your business numbers.